Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be talking this month about dating on a budget because I think it's so flippin' important right now, depending on where you're at and depending on what you're experiencing. But I think a lot of people are experiencing this financial hardship right now for whatever reason you might be going through it. But I know a lot of people are in general experiencing the strain of the economy. But on top of it, even more importantly, because things have gotten more expensive, dating has gotten more expensive. And we're not going to cover your mindset or your point of view of like who should pay for a date. That's not really the point of today. The point of today is assuming that you are spending money of some kind on dating, whether it's a first date. I know there's a lot of people out there that like to be able to pay for the first date. And if you are doing dinner date, for example, every single week to try and meet someone, you could potentially be spending 500 plus per month on just first dates. That's a car payment. That can be a huge financial commitment for a lot of people. And so we really want to talk today about what what are some really effective ways to be able to still date because we still want to have connection with other people. We don't want to stop dating just because shit got expensive. Not sure if I'm allowed to swear actually, because I am live streaming to multiple platforms. So my apologies. But the point is, life got expensive. And, when you're trying to date, you shouldn't feel like you can't successfully go out on dates or be in a relationship because maybe right now you can't afford it. There are ways to do it, and we're going to dive into those ways today because everyone deserves love. Everyone has a person out there that's for them. And I don't want you to feel that you have to stop looking for that person just because now you are on a budget. I know it can be very stressful. I completely get that. But at the same time, I want to give you some tools today to help you find your way to feel confident about your dating. So then that way you don't have to pull back so much from getting yourself out there. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm excited about it, and this should be fun. It should be fairly short. So hang in there with me. Okay. All right. So what exactly are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about 4 steps. First step is setting the budget and planning ahead. We'll go over that. Finding free or discounted events. That's going to be key for today. And that's going to be key to dating on a budget in general is what can you do? Can you take every single date on a 5-star restaurant experience every time? No, probably not. So what can you do to reassure yourself that you can still date, maybe not feel or look cheap, because I know that's a huge concern for a lot of people, and not set up every first date as like a coffee date or a hiking date, or there's ways to get creative and still make it a very exciting date and a very fun experience without having to do every single first date as like a Zoom call or I know like I think it's Bumble now you can video chat and call through the app, which is kind of cool actually. I really like that. Um, but also it can be really uncomfortable having to explain to your date like, look, I'm kind of broke right now. You still want to date me? We want somebody to connect with us because of who we are, not what we can provide for them in the moment. Everyone is at different places in their lives, and you might be in transition right now, and the money might be coming soon, but it just might not be here now. It doesn't mean you don't have the ability to date. You can still get yourself out there and find a good partner. And then we're going to talk about creative ways to DIY your date or just some suggestions of how you can get super creative. And then the last one is really important because this is for anyone who is moving past like the first, second, third date and you're moving towards the relationship. And now it's the time for the communication around financial planning and things like that, which is actually really important for all relationships to succeed. You have to be on the same page on what your belief system is around finances. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. For anyone who is watching me for the first time, I am Andrea LaRosa. I am the founder of Date Smarter Matchmaking. I want you to feel confident about being here with me today. I am certified in relationship coaching and NLP and matchmaking and cognitive behavior therapy and all the things. So I don't want you to think that I'm coming at this from a point of view of like, I wanted to start this business, so I did because I'm successful at my own relationships. So here I am teaching you. Yes, I'm successful at my own relationships, but also I'm certified to be here to share this information, and I do the work and I do all the research to bring it to you, so then that way you don't have to do it. If you haven't heard of us yet, Date Smarter Matchmaking, we do a lot of things. We do matchmaking, obviously. We do coaching, but we also have a podcast that you can listen to on all of the podcast streaming sites called Date Smarter Sexier. My co-host Kanan and I go super unfiltered. So just a forewarning, we swear a lot on it. We get a little raunchy. No, not we. Kanan gets a little raunchy. And we talk about relationships and dating and sex. And, you know, we have the difficult conversations that kind of happen on the podcast. I also have my book called Get the Girl. If you haven't read it yet, it's not just for men, it is also for women on being that high value woman and how to better yourself, and lots of great little tips about successful dating. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and the audiobook is on Audibles. We also have our blog called Love Bites and our program called Date with Purpose. If you just kind of want to dip your toe into some of our services, Date with Purpose is actually a great, affordable program to do it in. And it'll really get you started. It really will help you with your confidence, getting clarity. You know, if you're coming out of a relationship and looking to date again, a lot of times you need to reset your goals for a relationship. We get a little lost sometimes in our breakup patterns. So it's a good idea to kind of reset and get clear again on what it is that you think is a healthy relationship and what you want and what you don't want, and kind of start fresh. So that's what we offer, and that's what we do at Date Smarter Matchmaking. And onward. Okay. I'm going to change my view here a little bit just to make that bigger for you guys. I want to dive into step one. So it's setting the budget and planning ahead. And I know for a lot of people, this can be very challenging. It's the planning part that can be really difficult. It's not in everyone's nature to be planners, and that is okay. But I'm telling you, if you are dating on a budget, you're going to have to learn how to start planning your dates better. First of all, guys, if you're dating women, women love a man who can plan. And planning a first date doesn't mean it has to be extravagant by any means. I'm going to give you an example, and this example is actually in my book. So years ago, I matched with a guy on a dating app, and he was planning the first date. And I really appreciated the fact that he was like trying to plan it. He was asking me things about what I liked, what I didn't like. And then he came up with this idea, this plan. He was going to pick me up first date. He was going to pick me up. We were going to drive out to some unknown area for about an hour. I think he said it was like a 45-minute to an hour drive. We were going to have a picnic. He wanted to bring oysters, and we'd have a nice romantic time, and then he'd drive me back. Wouldn't tell me exactly where we were going to go. And then disclosed that I live in California and you're allowed to carry a concealed weapon. And so he has a gun that he leaves in his truck for safety. So he did disclose that with me. So, yeah, no, no on so many levels right there. No. I'm not getting in someone's car on a first date that I've never met before. Like, you might be the nicest guy and you know that you're the nicest guy, but I don't know that you're the nicest guy. So, first of all, not getting in your car. Second of all, not driving an hour to get somewhere on a first date when I don't even know if we have anything in common. That's a long time to be together. And you're not telling me where we're going. How is anyone going to find me? So, mindfulness on first dates, especially, and I'm sorry, but I'm really stressing this towards men because you have to consider her safety. That is number one. If she feels safe with you, then she's going to relax. She's going to ease into the date nicely and she's going to lean in and you'll have her full attention and she's going to have a great time with you. So, please, guys, just be mindful of what you're doing for first dates when you are planning these. Consider her safety and her comfort level. Okay, so first things first, when you need to set a budget and plan ahead, you first need to sit down and look at what can I realistically afford when it comes to dating. And this isn't just for men, this is for women and same-sex couples. It doesn't matter who you are, because even as a woman, if I'm out dating and maybe, yeah, guys tend to pick up the tab all the time if we go to dinner, wherever we do, but I don't want to be dependent on someone else paying. And if he wants to say go to dinner and he picks a really fancy place and I'm thinking, oh my God, I want to be able to split the bill, but holy shit, this place is expensive. I'm looking at like $100 each just to have dinner. Some of you guys, maybe it's a little bit less. And if you live in a big city, it might be a little bit more. Point being is that you might be stressed about the fact that I can't afford to like eat at this place. This is well beyond what I can afford. And I don't know if the other person's going to pick up the bill because they chose this crazy expensive restaurant. So both people need to be able to plan ahead. If you know that you are dating on a budget, you need to be able to come up with some really cool date ideas. Nowadays, it doesn't matter who asks for the date. You can still have a suggestion of like, hey, maybe instead of doing a dinner date, we can do X, Y, and Z instead. And I'm going to give you some suggestions. So first and foremost, know what your budget is for dating. Okay. Put it aside and know that this is what I can afford for dating and just feel confident about that. Okay. Separate money, separate budget. Then research some really cool low-cost date ideas in your area. Everyone is going to have different things, depends on where you live. I live in an area where everyone loves to be outdoors. So it's really easy to plan an outdoor activity here. But if you live somewhere where it's crazy hot or crazy cold, it might not be as easy. So start researching what you can do in your area. Okay. That's how you're going to be able to make this fun. If you are on a first date and you are stressed because like you can't afford this date, you're putting so much pressure on the success of the date. And your nerves are going to come through, right? That stress is going to come through. That energy is going to bleed into this date. And you don't want that. That's not a successful first date. You're almost setting yourself up to fail on your first dates if that stress level, that nervousness about finances is seeping into the date. Okay. I wanted to give you guys some pros and cons, do this a little different than I've done some of the past master classes with you guys. So I wanted to throw just a couple pros and cons out there of doing this. So yes, obviously the pro is that you're going to save some money. You're going to be intentional. That's probably a key word with this whole thing is you're going to be very intentional about your dates now because you need to be able to have fun on your dates. No one ever has a good time when the other person is freaking out on a date. So we don't want you to freak out over your finances when you're out on dates with these people. But yes, be mindful of the fact that this is going to limit how extravagant you can be on your date. You know, um, don't think that you can meet someone long distance and get them a hotel and have like this magical weekend with them and just throw it all on a credit card and say, I'll worry about the bill later. Be very realistic about what you can afford. You're going to find the right person this way. If you are, and I've seen people do this too. If you are trying to impress your date and you're spending a ton of money on it, you're getting a hotel for them to come visit you, or you're going to expensive restaurants, or maybe you're spending money on doing pricey trips around town, it's going to eventually weigh on you. It's going to take its toll on the relationship, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get past date 2 and 3. So you have this date, the other person is so impressed that you did all this, and it's just so exciting. But now you've set the bar so high. How are you going to keep competing with that? How are you going to keep topping that? Because that's what we do in the beginning when we're dating someone. We start a little bit, keep the bar a little bit low, not so low that it's ridiculous, but like a little low. You can still have a good time. And then you set the bar a little higher next time and next time and next time, right? If you set it too high on that first date, then you have nowhere to go but down. And that is not a direction that we want you to go. Okay. So planning out your budget, knowing what you can and cannot afford and what you can and cannot do in your area for a date is going to help you feel really confident about this new relationship. Okay. So let's move on. Step 2, finding free or discounted events. I'll give you some examples. I'm going to give examples for different areas because we match in different cities. And so it's my job to find really cool activities in different cities. So Seattle is a really good one. There is an ice cream cruise that you can do in Seattle. Oh my gosh, I have never done it. It looks so flippin' fun. I think maybe it's like $20, $25 at most. It's not very expensive. It might not even be that much, actually. I know that they had peak pricing and they had off-peak pricing as well. So this is what I mean by planning. If this is something that you want to do for a first date, because I think this is a really adorable first date. The cruise is just around the harbor, and I think maybe at most it's an hour and a half long, which is a perfect amount of time for a first date. And it's ice cream. You get to like create your little sundae or whatever you want to do. Like it's just a really cute idea, and it's casual, and it's during the day. And you can just meet there and get on the boat together. But you can research it. You can look it up and see like, okay, you know what? There's cheaper times to do this activity. So I'm going to plan my date during this cheaper time. The other thing that you can do is you can look up discount codes for things. So for example, if this activity has discount codes online and you don't want to be embarrassed by bringing a coupon or printing it out and showing it when you're paying at the gate or door or whatever, buy the tickets ahead of time, prepay online if that's an option. Then you can use that discount code and your date never knows that you used a discount code to pay for this date. It makes you look good because you planned ahead and you pre-purchased the tickets. Okay. It's summertime right now, and finding festivals in your area might be a really good way to also do a fairly inexpensive first date. Not all festivals are inexpensive, so be very mindful of that. But early bird tickets to things. I know some people like to pre-purchase early bird tickets to activities they really want to do. So they'll buy 2 tickets on the early bird special so they can get them really discounted. And then they'll start dating. And when they find someone that they feel like this would be a good first date or second date or third date or whatever it is, then they say like, hey, do you want to come? I have tickets to this thing. You want to come with me? Again, it's planning. It's knowing that, say it's a concert, for example. I know here in California, we're going to be having the state fair sometime soon, and they have a lot of concerts, and you can get early bird pricing for a lot of things. So you find something that you really want to go see, you buy 2 tickets ahead of time, so it's discounted. And then as you're going through your dating process, you can find someone to go with you to it. And it looks like you planned it for them, but really you kind of pre-planned it. Shh, it'll be our secret. So this is why the planning is so important as well. Do I suggest you show up and pay at the door with a coupon in hand? No, it does look cheap. It does suck that we're very judgy that way, but it's unfortunate. But we are as a society. So this is a way to be able to use like a discount or a coupon without it being so obvious that that's what you're doing. Almost every activity I feel like nowadays allows you to prepay online. I had one couple go out on an escape room date, and you book it online and it gives you the option of like just doing a deposit or prepaying the whole thing. And there's discount codes out there for it too. So, that gives you that opportunity to prepay for it and use a discount code so that it's not as expensive. Also, if you're going to do something like an escape room, it depends on the room, but some of them are cheaper than others. A lot of them now have, because of the pandemic, a lot of them are doing outdoor scavenger hunts. You can find an outdoor scavenger hunt practically free. I know I found them for free. Some of them are super cheap. They're only like $10 each. And some of them are donation based too, which is super cool. That is a really great first date. You didn't even spend hardly anything on it, but yet you're getting to know each other. You're doing a really fun activity. So look in your area, see what you can do. Museum exhibits are a great one because sometimes they'll be free or next to nothing, especially on certain days of the week. So you're going to have to do your research. You're going to have to spend some time and look to see what in your area can you do that's within your budget. Okay. And again, like one of the pros of this is that you're actually going to learn a lot about your area, for one. You're going to find really unique things to do, and you're going to be able to have a good time on your date with your person, because you're not going to be focused on, oh my gosh, I have to take them to dinner and this is so expensive, So say you decide to do a museum exhibit. Say you find one that's super affordable or even free. You go on the free day. They don't need to know. You get the tickets online and you just show up. They don't know if it was free, if it was $10, if it was $50. And you take your time. You go through and you enjoy your time together. An hour and a half, 2 hours in. You can do a couple of things afterwards. You can plan to do like a little picnic maybe, because a lot of museums sit on beautiful grounds. So maybe you bring a picnic and you sit and have a little snack or lunch or whatever and get to know each other even more. Or you call it and say like, I had a really great time with you. And you go your separate ways and you plan for a second date. Or you go to a local coffee shop nearby and you just get a cup of coffee or a tea and you spend a little bit more time together. So be mindful of the time that you're planning your date. If you can't, or not that you can't afford it, but if you aren't interested in having to do dinner dates, then I'm 100% on board with that. Like dinner dates on a first date, that's a big commitment. So you don't have to. Just be mindful of what time you're doing things. If you're going to do a museum thing, then maybe you go in between the lunch and the dinner time. So then that way you can plan accordingly, because, it's going to be 3:00 in the afternoon by the time we're done. That's not a meal time. So let's just go get a cup of coffee. There you go. So yeah, one of the cons of this also is that you're going to have to be mindful if you live somewhere where prices increase during peak seasons like summer. So like for example, where I live, a lot of the prices for things go up and around this time because they're accommodating for all the tourism. So look into that before you plan anything. So that way you know, okay, look, I can't do this date at this time because this is a peak time and it's gonna be more expensive. So, I'll hold off and maybe do that during, off season, and I'll come up with something else. But write it out, make a list. I mean, obviously I have tons of lists for all the cities because this is what I do, but um, it's okay for you to sit down and be a planner and make a list of all the really cool things you can do in your city for date ideas. And then know, like, okay, well, this, is going to cost me $20, or this is going to cost me nothing. It's going to be free if I go on this day. So then that way, and when you are talking to people online or in person or however you're meeting your dates, you can say to them like, hey, I heard that there's this really great art exhibit at the museum. Do you think that you'd be interested in going with me? That's just a really great way to ask for a date, especially if you know that they're also into art. And then you can plan it accordingly of like, great, well, let's do that on such and such day around such and such time, when maybe there's free entry into the museum on that day, or maybe it's a discounted day. And then, like I said, if you can, go online and pre-purchase things, so then that way you can use discount codes and things like that. Step 3, and hopefully I'm not going too fast for you guys. I know I tend to speed through these. I don't know why, but yeah, feel free to let me know if you have questions about anything. I'll gladly answer them, even if it's afterwards. I'll check the comments and be sure to answer your questions. So getting creative with your DIY type dates, okay? I'm thinking more of not first date here, guys. More like, third or fourth date, or you've already met and you're comfortable with each other and you can kind of start to move into more intimate style dates. One of my favorite ones is cooking together. Not for me personally, because when I cook, I like to be the only one in the kitchen. I mean, you can sit on the other side of the bar and drink wine and talk to me, but we don't need to like actually cook together. But you should know that about yourself. So if you're going to plan a cooking date where you're going to cook together, know where your limits are. It's okay if you get nervous when you're cooking and you can't handle someone else being in the kitchen with you. Let them maybe sit in the kitchen and talk to you, or maybe you guys drink wine together while you're cooking. Or if you are okay with the coexisting in the kitchen together, then one person can chop and the other person can cook, or something like that. But it's a really fun and inexpensive way to have a date, because I mean, how much are you going to spend on ingredients compared to going out somewhere? And you can create meals that are affordable for you. So again, you don't have to have this fancy meal. You don't have to go buy like steaks or, some kind of expensive cut of meat. You can make something that's a little bit more inexpensive to cook and just do it together and enjoy the time together. Movie nights are great. I'm not talking about a Netflix and chill. I'm talking about just having like a fun little movie night. Depending on what you like to do. And here's an idea. And this one's not for everyone, but some of us like to tap into our inner child sometimes. So here's a cute like movie night idea. Build a fort. When is the last time you had anyone actually has built a fort? And for some of you who are like, what are you talking about? And those of you who are my age probably understand. When we were kids, we didn't have technology to entertain us ever. And so we had to use the living room to get creative. And so we used to build these extravagant forts with the pillows and the couch, and you would get the blankets and maybe a sheet to put over. And then once you get it set up, you'd put blankets and pillows inside and get all cozy. And so you can do something like that. You can kind of tap into your inner child, build a fort in your living room, pop some popcorn, make some hot cocoa, put on a really fun movie to watch that you guys both are into, and curl up underneath your fort, cuddle, and have your popcorn and watch your movie. Like, how much did that cost you? A bag of popcorn? That's it. So again, you have to get creative. You have to think of new and different ways to, I mean, sure, can you have someone over and just do a Netflix and chill on the couch? You could, but how does that sound versus the idea of like doing this like idea of build a fort together, make hot cocoa and popcorn and curl up underneath your cute little fort and watch a movie that way, right? That lends and leans into the idea of this romance that you're trying to create on a budget, because all you're paying for is that popcorn. So it's pretty inexpensive. The other thing too with this that I wanted to touch on was gifts. Oh my gosh, the DIY gifts. So Pinterest has a lot of great ideas if you're trying to DIY a present or a gift for your partner. This is probably a little bit more further in, but like we're talking about dating, right? If you're a couple months into a relationship and bam, Valentine's Day hits and you're thinking, shoot, Valentine's Day can be a really expensive holiday and I don't really have the budget to be buying jewelry or watches or whatever it is, right? So instead, be thoughtful. Go on to Pinterest and look for really cute little DIY ideas to do for your partner. One year for my boyfriend, I did a little DIY thing just because I knew he appreciated all the effort that went into DIY gifts more so than a bought gift. So I knew him well enough at that point to know like this was going to score me big brownie points with him. I went onto Pinterest and bought canning jars and filled them up with some of his favorite snacks. So like goldfish and like nuts and like all kinds of just snack things, right? So I put it in this big, beautiful basket and I went to the dollar store and got that stuffing, put in it, put them in, made the jars really pretty with like ribbon and whatnot. And then on each one, I put like a little Valentine saying, like there's plenty of fish in the sea, but you're the only one for me. Cheesy, I know, but adorable when you're dating someone and they use these lines. I don't suggest using them on a first date, but if you are dating for a while and you have to come up with a gift for someone, that is really cute. So I put one on each of the jars and gave it to him and he loved it. It was great. And it didn't cost me very much to do this either. It was very, very inexpensive, but it was also the thought and time and effort that I put into it that I think that he really appreciated. So if you have to DIY a gift or, if your love languages or your partner's love language is receiving gifts, really spend some time and research some ways to DIY a fun and adorable and inexpensive gift to give to them. And again, Pinterest has a ton of great ideas. So I definitely suggest hitting up Pinterest for those ideas. So again, the pro of doing this is that you're being creative and it's creating a memory. So you could even do like a photo board of you guys or create a frame or whatever it is that you're doing, right? It's so much more memorable than the time that your partner gave you flowers. Like flowers are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking on flowers here, but think about a DIY gift versus just like going to the store and buying flowers that are going to die in a couple of days anyways. And you're like, oh yeah, I think my partner gave me flowers once upon a time, some way back when. Versus, my partner made me this amazing X, Y, and Z gift, whatever it is, right? Put together this really creative basket or frame or whatever it is you're putting together. So it's thoughtfulness, right? And it's personalized. And when it's personalized and thoughtful, it's so much more intimate, okay? But again, your con on this one is that you're going to be limited because you put that dating budget together, so you know what you can spend every month on dating. You're going to have to be sure that you have the time to do these things. If you're going to DIY, you need to make sure that you're setting aside enough time to put this together. You're going to have to go out and buy the things and come home and spend time putting it together and working on it. So make sure you are budgeting for time as well as finances. So good, something to keep in mind. The last thing that I want to talk about today is step 4, and it's communicating. I think we forget sometimes when we start to get into a relationship with someone that we really need to be able to communicate finances with them. You could not have a healthy relationship without the ability to talk about your finances. And I do not mean you need to sit down with someone after 2 or 3 months of dating them and tell them like, look, I just need to let you know I'm broke as fuck. You don't have to do that. Okay, that's not what I mean. I mean, talk about in general what is important to you. What are your financial beliefs? What do you value around finances? So keep the conversation very general. You don't have to share like, hey, so like my checking account has $200 in it. You want to go on a date with me? That's not what I'm talking about. The role that money plays in relationships can make or break a relationship. So talk about it in general. Have the conversation with your partner about what they think or what they feel is important when it comes to money in a relationship. Is it important for if you're in a heterosexual relationship, is it important that the guy pays for everything? Is he supposed to be the financial support in the relationship, or are you of a different mindset? Do you believe that it's equal, or whoever just has, the better paying job pays more? Like, what's your belief around this in general? Because this will tell you if you're compatible anyways, and you don't want to spend all this time, effort, and money on a relationship where you realize we do not have financial compatibility here. Our belief systems don't align. So again, you don't have to share specifics on where you are financially, because that might feel too soon for you, and rightfully so. But you can talk about what your belief system is around it and how it plays into communicating, or how it plays into the things that you do together. You might start dating someone and you're doing all these really cute things for them. And then you have this conversation and it turns out that they have this expectation of travel. And maybe you can't afford to travel. Maybe your idea of travel is camping, weekend getaways, or, driving somewhere versus flying somewhere, because it's just not something that's in your budget. You need to know these things before you commit to a long-term relationship with someone, because after a while, it's going to weigh heavy on that relationship. If one person is like, I want extravagant travel, and the other person's like, I can't afford extravagant travel, and I can't meet you at that point, the relationship is going to start to kind of fall apart a little bit because of those financial expectations. So it's good to have this conversation in general towards the beginning, just so that okay, you know what? I think we're on the same page. Besides, when you're dating, the purpose of dating is to see if you can have a long-term relationship with someone, which means your lifestyles have to match up to some degree. Not completely. It doesn't have to be like this perfect fit, but to some degree, you have to be on the same path with the way you live your lifestyles. So if you have one person in the relationship who's like, yeah, I do European trips like every couple of months, and I do 5-star hotels, and woo. And then the other person, on the other hand, is like, well, I can do weekend trips away and I can go camping and I can drive places, but I'm not flying first class. So these are really important conversations to have, not on a first date, but early in on the dating process. Okay. Also, when you have these conversations with your partner, you're learning how to develop really strong communication. And I know we all say it, communication is the number one most important piece to a successful relationship, any relationship, not just an intimate partner relationship, but family, friends, coworkers, anyone, right? Communication is the number one most important element that you need to have. We also all think that we're great communicators because we talk, but talking is not the only piece of communicating, right? You need to be able to understand your partner's body language a little bit and listen. You need to be able to hear what they're actually saying. And if you aren't sure what they're saying is accurate, like you're not hearing it right, then you need to check in for clarification. Because so often we think we are communicating one thing and the other person's hearing something else. And that's that communication breakdown. If you can talk finances with a partner early in, you're just bonding that much more. You're making your relationship that much stronger. So then you will be successful and you will hopefully have a nice, long, healthy relationship with this person because you know how to communicate about money and finances and you have this mutual respect that happens. Okay. Yes, the con of this absolutely is the fact that this is a difficult conversation to have. I didn't say it was easy. I said it had to be done, but I didn't say it was easy by any means. So sorry if I misled you to think that this was going to be easy. Dating is not easy. So, yes, it's going to make you uncomfortable. Yes, it sucks to have this conversation, especially if you can't predict what your partner is going to ask or say. And maybe it'll be a disappointing conversation, but maybe it won't be. Maybe this conversation will open up your relationship to a new level because you've realized, oh my gosh, I have the most amazing partner here who is understanding and can talk about these things. And we are on the same page and we are heading in the right direction. And this is going to take us on a new level with each other. So, yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's challenging and it is so uncomfortable. So plan a little bit before you sit down and do it. Just don't willy-nilly sit down and be like, so I'm just curious, like, what do you think the roles are in relationships with money? Like, have some kind of plan in the back of your head of knowing, like, this is what I'm willing to talk about. This is what I'm willing to share. And this is how I'm going to go about starting this conversation. And, this is how I want to approach this conversation. Timing matters. Okay. So be mindful about the time that you're having this conversation. If you're talking about finances, again, you're not talking about your personal finances. You're talking about the role of money in relationships, because if you can keep it general, then there's no pressure on either person to share their actual financial situation. Because we often assume things about people when we start dating them. You could meet someone, for example, go on a date with someone who's a doctor or a lawyer, and you're like, dang, I hit the jackpot. They're a doctor or a lawyer. You don't know what those student loans look like for them. They might be drowning in debt, where this is a good lesson for you then to learn how to date on a budget. But don't make assumptions based on what you think you know about someone. Or on the flip side of that, if you meet someone who is like, yeah, I'm not really working very much right now. I work part-time here and there. It's no big deal. And you think, well, they're not very ambitious, or, they probably don't have very much money. They could be a trust fund kid. You don't know. Maybe they're taking some time off in between, or maybe they had a business and they sold it and made a ton of money. And now they're just kind of chilling for a little bit because They just want to have an easy life right now. So you don't know what anyone's financial situation is until you get into a very serious relationship. But it's very important to have the conversation of what their beliefs are around it, just so that you know that you're on the same page. So I know I kind of feel like I went through this really fast. I'm very sorry. It was like, spit this stuff out, Andrea. Come on. But if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, or you want more specific ideas, I can shoot you guys some more ideas that I have. I've got a ton of them. My brain is just like swirling with all these like cool date ideas. So throw it in the comments below if you have like a certain situation that's coming up and you kind of want to fine tune it, or if you have any questions. Maybe there's something that I completely missed, and I apologize if I did. I try to be really thorough when I plan this. But yeah, and I would love for you guys to follow me. Follow me on social media. We're on all the things, Instagram, Date Smarter Coach, and we're on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. And some of you guys are watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, it's just ridiculous. You got to be on all the things, or you can just check us out at datesmartermatchmaking.com. Thank you so much for watching today and being here. And if you do leave a comment below, or if you do end up following us, I do greatly appreciate you. And I want you to be successful with your dating and your relationship. And that is why I'm here. And that is why we do this on the first Wednesday of every single month at 12 noon Pacific Standard or Daylight Time. Thank you. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys all next month.